So I moved here in July 2020, literally as soon as the estate agents reopened. Moved on to Long Street, above the iconic Greggs, the busiest shop in town. Spent 18 months there, really enjoyed it, and got involved in the Market Square in quite a few activities whilst living there. I'm originally from Tamworth, grew up there, born and inbred, as a lot of people will say. Did all my schooling there, then at the age of 16, went and did a year at college, trying to kid myself from the fact that at school everybody was telling me that I was going to join the army, and I was like, nope, I'm going to go and be a mechanic. Did a year at college. Things weren't going the way I wanted socially outside of the educational environment, so I decided to enlist, bypass my mother and use my father instead as the person to sign me away, which he happily agreed to. And then at 17 years and 8 months I was in Catterick, doing 26 weeks of training, and it was one of the trial intakes at the time, so I think I was the third trial intake for doing all of your training up at Catterick rather than doing Lichfield or Purbright or something like that. After 3 months it was found that I'd got fractures in my legs, so I then had to spend 3 months doing rehabilitation. The culmination to get out of that rehabilitation was to be able to do 2 8-milers, one week, one the other week, and in the required time, and obviously have no pain, which we surpassed it. We had a bit of a competition with the parachute regiment, which was thoroughly enjoyable, and then progressed with the later 3 months of my training. Did that, and then got posted to battalion, 1st Battalion in the Staffordshire Regiment down in Tidworth. Very shortly after getting to battalion, we were doing OPTAG training, which is your operational tour training to go abroad, and we went to Kosovo. That was my first tour, and that was a Christmas tour, so it was when we got there, nice and sunny for the first month or so, and then temperatures drastically dropped and we was getting -20s in the valleys, not the Welsh valleys obviously, in the Mayance Valley and stuff like that, and it was certainly an experience. Had my 19th birthday out there.
Very young.
Yeah, I was on Radio Stag that night in the ops room, and I got an officer came in. I was meant to be on till I think it was 4 in the morning, and an officer came in at I think 2 hours to midnight at 10 o'clock, and he went, go on, tell you what, it's your birthday, get yourself off and give me a couple of cans. And I went back to my room and socially drank them to myself. Whilst on that tour, I ended up doing a regular radio users carder as well. So that's just anybody that does that, it's just to show that they're proficient on just using the radio out on patrol. Did really well on that, unfortunately for me, or fortunately for me. It was fortunate for somebody, I don't know who. When we got back to Tidworth, I ended up in Signals Platoon itself. From doing that, on one of our basic personal fitness tests, I happened to beat the CO on the BPFA, and got called to his office and told that I was becoming his driver. I actually thought I was going to get extra duties, but I didn't. And then a couple of years progressed. I'd done my NCO card to get promoted to Lance Corporal, and done various other courses for armoured vehicles and whatnot. And then we deployed to Iraq in 2005, and that was a summer tour, a nice 7 months out in the dust. Very different to anything I'd ever expected. First month or so was quiet. and then we started getting indirect fire almost on a nightly basis. So that'd be rockets coming into camp and not really hitting anything initially. And then obviously the culmination point for me that completely changed my attitude and perspective was the 16th of July 2005, where we were backfilling C Company, because I was attached to B Company at the time, on the OC's vehicle. But we were backfilling because they had guys on R&R, and we were going out to do clearance patrols in snatch Land Rovers to try and deter or find where these guys were setting up these Chinese rockets, as they were called. We'd been out about an hour and a half before we heard a small explosion. Lieutenant Shearer's call sign came over the radio saying that it wasn't far from them and that they'd go to investigate. And I think we were about 1.5 miles, 2 miles further to the northwest of where they were. And then that was it. We heard well, for me, I heard the largest explosion I'd ever hear in my life. And then a flash and the ground moved. And in comparison to some of the large ordnance that was dropped, this was nothing. So we mounted up and headed back there. As we mounted up into the vehicle, we heard the call sign come up saying contact, wait out, and we just got there as quick as we could to discover that the lead snatch had been hit with an IED and gone straight through the passenger windscreen, the passenger screen. Sadly, Mr. Shearer lost his life straight away, as well as the Spicer. Phil Hewitt, when we got there, the lads were doing CPR on him and also trying to do first aid on the 2 lads that were in the back. The interpreter was completely unscathed as well, which was just miraculous. He was an Iraqi national that was working for the British government as an interpreter. And we just all did what we were supposed to do. Switched it around on first aid and CPR and roving sentries to keep the area secure. Massive turning point for me in my life. A week later, a week or 2 weeks later, I tried to take my life whilst out there, and failed miserably. I'd not pushed the magazine home properly, so when I released the catch, it didn't take a round into the chamber, and then put my finger on the trigger with the muzzle in my mouth, and it just went click. At that point, got myself up, straight to the med centre, and I got sent down to Basra with my rifle obviously taken off me for an evaluation. After a couple of days in there, I was told that I was being sent to Basra city itself to join A Company. And when I got there, Sergeant Major had said, "Community psychiatric nurse has said that there's nothing wrong with you, let's crack on. And I don't want to hear any trouble off you." So then had to quickly integrate into a company that I'd not really worked with many of the lads previously. And I've got to say, they were actually all so welcoming. Sergeant Major's bound to be grumpy, it's their job, innit? So finished off the tour there. We actually helped with raid on a police station, and we were still getting contacted down there. It was almost as if the crap had followed me down to Basra, like I was a shit magnet. But it wasn't me, it was the situation out there at the time. Before going out to Iraq, I'd made the decision to leave. My then partner had said to me that we wouldn't be having kids together unless I left the army. So then when came back from Iraq, she knew that I only had 6 months left or something like that at the time, and she was like, let's try for a kid. And then by December she was pregnant. I left on the 22nd of May 2006 and went into a couple of warehousing jobs. Worked for me. I ended up at one point working at Junction 10. It was then NYK Logistics. Yeah. My auntie rang me one day and said, need a favour? And I was like, what? She said, can you help us move house on Friday? I was like, but I've got work. She was like, can you throw a sickie? I went, I can't throw that. I don't throw sickies. She was like, but we'll pay you what you should be paid for both the jobs and your fuel, and we'll give you some food. Very apprehensive at the time and not wanting to do it. I still went and did it. I threw a sickie, and by 1-2 o'clock that afternoon we'd moved the whole house, and she thought it was going to take a weekend. There was me, my 2 uncles and my auntie. Just obliterated it. A couple of journeys done, dusted, and with that my uncle had said to my auntie, oh, he's a bit of a grafter, isn't he? And she was like, you see him as you see him. So he got me an interview with Waits, and I ended up getting a job with him as a labourer. While throwing a sickie, yeah. Fast forward 10-12 years, I split up with my partner, or my wife at the time, and moved to Atherstone. And my logic was I wanted to be close enough to see my kids, but far enough that she doesn't know my business. Unfortunately, only one of them was true, and that's I'm close enough to see my kids. She still found out everything. It was always that thing with Atherstone. People often associated it to being the same as Polesworth. I know. But when I got over here, it was completely different. When I came over to look at a couple of properties, with it being the middle of summer, going out onto that market square in the middle of summer, it was like being in France or something. It cobbled streets and tables and chairs out with umbrellas and whatnot. And I was like, oh, this actually looks really good. So as soon as the estate agent said, the flat's yours if you want it, because I did have to cajole them slightly because they were having some work done. I was like, look, I know you want to make sure that there's no more damp coming through the wall, but I work in construction. I'll tell you if it's coming through, and you can do whatever you need to. Got involved with a few of the events over the coming months, and got to know the people quite well. Obviously, various landlords, because you don't know a town until you've been in its pubs. So yeah, it's a great experience living over here.
And you've done some good community work, haven't you?
Yeah, not as much as I'd probably like, because I still get drawn back to Tamworth. Obviously, I'm part of the Royal British Legion there.
And your current campaign?
Yeah, the Staffordshire Free at the moment. But yeah, once the Staffordshire Free is done, I'm going to be more. I'm going to be photocentric to Atherstone. The people are definitely its quirk, because it's almost quite oldie worldy with how the people are, in some respects, and it's nice. It's that quaint. It's a
great community.
Yeah, you've got the high street. Everybody talks about the high street. Everybody talks about the events. Everybody's got each other's back on Facebook, or each other's back up on Facebook, one of the two. But it's all community interaction, and there's so many small businesses locally that just plug each other constantly and get involved with each other. It's amazing.